Good morning, all, and welcome to the Market Outlook. Today's the 7th of June. This is for tomorrow, the 8th of June. It's going to be fun, I think. So, before we start, let's have a look at the disclaimer and to understand that the presentation is for educational purposes only. Past performance does not equal future results. So, if you just finish that, and then we can go on to let's have a quick look and see what's on the calendar for tomorrow. And this is the catalyst. This is the issue that drove markets lower on Friday. And then there you can see the story about it. Oil's just doing its own thing. Nothing has happened here on Iran. So we've got a lot of things that potentially could happen next week. So whether these are whether the inputs are going to be material or not, because once the market starts going into a different mode, most of these things become inconsequential. But this will be the biggest one on Wednesday, core inflation. If we can stabilize markets tomorrow and see what's going to go on. So that's going to be the key. So let's have a look and see where we are. So I've left the charts. I've done absolutely nothing, so I'll do them from scratch. And we can see, obviously, there's the breakout of Friday. So let's go into there. Let's go and have a look and see what we've got on the agenda. Now, what I would do Monday is stay out, wait and see what happens, because there might be talk, there might be a continued move to the downside. There's so many moving parts now. You can look at the daily in context, and it was just a ripple, not too much excitement. But it's the fallout post Friday that we need to have a look at and see. So if we've looked at these before, we can see that, once the market breaks down, it could continue a little bit longer for a couple more days, consolidation, and then we get to reflection points. So it's the first port of call is going to be to see whether we get any retracement on this move on Friday. And there it is. And immediately you can see here. Now, because of volatility, you're going to have to be a lot more mindful on Monday. And that's why I say maybe give Monday a look and see. So that's a level that you could be interested in if we pull back, because then you've got your other indicators which are helping you. I've told you before about these gaps when they go too far away. We've too far out to see. We need to come back. So one of two things happen. We go sideways and everything comes down, and then this becomes decision point. We get a pullback into this area, and then you've got a decision to make. The market, I think, are going to be like cats on hot tin roofs on Monday, and they're going to be bouncing around. So just be very careful. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't think it's going to be reflective of what can happen on Monday, because it could get scary and choppy. So let's just put it into the daily again. You can see the sell-off. In the broader context, you add a reflection point. This area has supported before on sterling, so that becomes important. So let's go down to the hourly and let's go and have a look. So on the higher time frame, this is a reflection point. Where we at? So if we break this area here, that's our target, 132.88. I would anticipate again, like the euro, wait and see to see what this area offers us, and then make decisions from there. So again, too far away. So either, you could get the initial sell-off, then the pullback, and then the consolidation, and then let everything play catch up. So we will have a meeting on Monday anyway in the afternoon or late morning, and that will give us a lot more insight as to what has happened, because the markets would have been open for quite a few hours. The one I'm going to look at here is this one, because this is the troubling one. Now, I've talked about this level, all the time. There's a decision point for the Bank of Japan. Now, what happens in trading markets? The markets know that they've defended this line. So the question is, are they going to defend this line again, or are they going to let this currency run? And that will be a very good indication to the market. So if they step back now and they show signs of weakness, the market will ramp this currency. They will take them on. There was a famous thing, and I witnessed it back in the early 90s when George Soros took out the Bank of England. He was the offer, and the Bank of England was on the bid for euro sterling, and he broke them. That was his claim to fame. So we've got the same kind of reflection point on Monday in dollar yen. What's going to happen? Not for me to speculate, but that's just what can happen. And if this breaks, it can be off to the races. So, and the impact on a much weaker yen will have really significant and dramatic impact on not just Japan, but on global markets. I'm not going to go any further because there's too much up in the air. It's just to have a quick review, prepare you for Monday. Stay out. Stay out. If you don't have to be in it, stay out of it. Let's go and have a look at the futures. So I haven't changed any charts at all on the futures. So I thought we would just come into these and have a look and see how we are doing. So we had this massive move since the end of March. And there it is. Let me just tidy this up a little bit. Let's get rid of these because we've got our boxes. Right, so what have we got on Monday? We've got our first reflection point. There it is. And you can see all the other ones on the way down. So this is huge. When last did we have a big move like this in the markets? And I think this is the issue. So there's something similar that happened back in October. Then we rallied back, and then that rally was not broken until, so that is going to be a huge line in the sand, this 27 area. So watch that. Don't trade. And you can see, in terms of a correction, 25%, it's not a lot. Sometimes markets, but I mean, this would then start getting into, massive drawdowns. The problem was this, and this is what we've had to live with now, because you had uninterrupted move up when people just moved into this market in a manner that just boggled the mind and put everything, the whole market into distress. You see there, you can see how this whole move on its hourly chart was undone in 2 days after we hit that high on Thursday. And you see again, or you can see that all these boxes did what they had to do. Watching this on Friday was very difficult because there was no significant bounce at all. It just let me go to a lower time frame chart. It was just grinding lower. Just grind there. That's a good. It just was grind. There was some. I think there was one little spike when the figures came out at 8:30, because I was waiting, and I missed all this move because I was like waiting for a spike to get in, and it never get in. And then I just turned off the computer and just watched it, and it's very difficult to trade these. And then you have a buy the dip mentality from the market. And I think that's what happened Friday. So people would sort of mark levels, buy dips. But you can see again how all these areas that we've set out previously are acting as support and resistance. So this is just an update for all of you, just to have just get some color on what happened Friday, what potentially is going to happen tomorrow morning. And again, you can see, it's this S&P not even a 25% retracement. And then we've got all our levels marked out already. And so we are waiting. But it's so difficult to trade these markets when you have a falling knife, because your inclination is to buy it because it's like fallen from 76.30 down all the way down. It's 300 points lower, and you think, time to buy. Stay out unless you get a reasonable correction back into one of these areas and then use them as pivots. But be very careful. So even gold has lost its shine. And probably what you're finding is that central banks are having to liquidate some of their holdings to, remember we talked about this level as a target area. There it is, came into target, met its target, tried to go back, and then the sellers came in and pushed it all the way down. So it's like a measured move all the way down. So we can have a look at that now. So we know what's going to be resistance now. There it is, there it is, there it is. Will we get a correction? I don't know. Just be careful. Oil. Respecting all our levels. Let's just go to higher time frame. So again, stay out of oil. Don't play this. The situation in Iran has, the market is focused on the semiconductor sector at the moment. And this has become, everyone thinks it's all over. It's just a matter of time before a deal is signed and the US make their exit. Don't know. So just be careful. I don't think it's worth looking at the euro on futures, because it's going to be the same as what we've said. This is not something you can trade. You just stay out of this market and see what's going to happen. So be prepared. I'll see you all tomorrow in the session at 11 a.m. New York time. So enjoy the rest of your weekend.